Welcome to a GameCube Gallery episode number 12. In GameCube Gallery, we are taking a look at the entire GameCube library, one game at a time. In the previous episode, we looked at two games, 2 for 1 special. We looked at James Bond 007 Agent Under Fire and James Bond 007 Nightfire. But in today's episode, we are going to be taking a look at one of my favorite games of all time, an underrated, underappreciated masterpiece of a hidden gem on the GameCube called Beyond Good and Evil. So, let's get into it. When I think about some of the best games that I have ever played, Beyond Good and Evil always comes into my thoughts. Ever since I played and beat it for the first time when it originally came out, and then a second time about 7 years later, and yet again a third time another 10 years later for this video, it still blows my mind how amazing this game is. Beyond Good and Evil is a third-person action-adventure game published and developed by Ubisoft and led by one of the most talented game designers in the industry, Michael Ansel. More on him later. Beyond Good and Evil is a game that was really way ahead of its time in many ways, and it still holds up very well even almost 17 years later. Let's dig into the game a little bit and discuss why. And we're going to start with the story, the characters, and the dialogue. Beyond Good and Evil has a fantastic and engrossing story full of political intrigue, conspiracy, a military dictatorship, aliens, and dark themes such as slavery, trafficking and kidnapping, and torture. You take on the role of the protagonist of the story, Jade, who is a young female photography-based journalist and investigative reporter. She lives on a mining planet called Healy's full of humans and human-like animals and advanced technology, but the thing is, the planet is being attacked regularly by an alien force called the DOMs, and these aliens abduct the citizens of the planet in order to steal their life force or turn them into controlled slaves. The planet is ruled and protected by the Alpha Section, who is a large military dictatorship force who keeps the citizens under control for their own protection from the DOMs. There is a secret underground group called the Iris Network, who are a group of rebels trying to prove that the Alpha Section is actually controlled by and works with the DOMs to use the planet's citizens like a farm. Jade is contacted by and recruited by the Iris Network to go on missions to gather photographic evidence to present to the citizens of Healy's to prove the conspiracy and have them rise up against the Alpha Sections and the DOMs. I don't want to say any more than that because there are a ton of twists and shocking revelations in the story that I do not want to spoil, despite this being a 17-year-old game. Now I will say this, it takes a lot for a video game story to pull me in and keep me invested, but the story in Beyond Good and Evil did that from beginning to end. Part of that has to do with the characters and the dialogue. There is a large cast of very interesting characters all throughout the game, whether it is the kids that live at the lighthouse with Jade, the various vendors and merchants in the game, the members of the Iris Network, or the random NPCs you interact with. The characters are all very interesting and they all feel unique and full of life. But the characters that really shine are the three main protagonists, being Jade, her Uncle Paige, who is a pig, and Double H, who reminds me of Buzz Lightyear from Toy Story. Throughout the game, you will be paired with one of these two, and they assist you on your journey. And towards the end of the game, you'll actually be paired with both of them at once, but not for a very long period of time. While they are with you, conversations get struck up at various points of the game very often, and the dialogue is always well written, and not only does the dialogue feel organic, but the conversations all feel organic as well, and really help to make these characters feel more alive. All of these things come together combined with cutscenes that have a very cinematic feel to them, and you have a story that you will not soon forget with an incredibly epic and shocking ending. Now let's change gears for just a moment and talk about the gameplay, because that's another area where Beyond Good and Evil really shines. Essentially at its core, Beyond Good and Evil is an action-adventure game, but in addition to exploration, combat, and puzzle solving, it also has a ton of stealth, photography, racing, chasing, being chased, mini-games, and it even has a somewhat open world to explore. There is a ton of variety in the gameplay, and all of these elements come together so beautifully and brilliantly. You start off the game with your staff, your camera, and your hovercraft. The camera is used for two purposes: to photograph the wildlife and the animals on the planet, and to photograph the evidence for iris on your missions. As you photograph wildlife and fill your camera up, you send those photos to a lady that is trying to catalog all the species, and she rewards you with much needed pearls, which are used to upgrade your hovercraft and your ship. You also sometimes use your camera to scan maps for missions, and also door locks to send to the governor to try to crack the code for you. Now, the hovercraft is used for navigating the planet, but it's also used for some combat sections and racing as well. You eventually acquire upgrades for your hovercraft, such as the ability to jump and shoot, which allow you to access further areas of the planet. There are 4 races to take part in for pearls and credits, and the races are pretty fun, but I do wish there were more of them and that they were a bit more challenging. You do 3 laps against your opponents, and really all you have to do is make sure that you hit most of the boost pads, and you should win with ease. There are also 4 areas called Looter's Cavern, where you enter a cave and someone in another vehicle steals credits from you. You then have to chase them through the cave and avoid getting trapped behind doors, and eventually you corner and destroy them to get credits and a pearl. These are fun and sometimes challenging, but again, I do wish there were more than 4 of them. On a few occasions while in your hovercraft, the DOMs will attack the planet and you have to fight a giant flying DOMs creature. These moments are fun as well and add further variety to the game. Towards the end of the game, you unlock a spaceship you can use to fly around the planet and deploy your hovercraft in the water at any time, and this is really fun, but again, quite short-lived. And your staff is of course used for combat, and combat is both simple and fun. You press A to attack and B to dodge. If you're surrounded by enemies, the direction you point your stick and press A will be what enemy you attack, so you can switch between enemies quickly and combo between enemies. Think similar to the Arkham Batman game's combat. It is simple, effective, and fun. You also eventually acquire the ability to shoot discs, and this is used in combat and also used for puzzle solving. You have a charge attack that will hit all the enemies surrounding you if you charge it and time it right. There are 4 main missions in the main story of the game, and each one feels totally different from each other. The locations in each mission can sort of be described as like a Zelda dungeon in a way. Each mission is full of enemies to fight, bosses to defeat, hidden secrets and loot to find, such as pearls, credits, and PA1s, which permanently increase your hearts. There are a ton of well-crafted and devious puzzles to solve, and there are also many stealth sections. Most of the stealth sections occur during Mission 2 at the factory and Mission 3 at the slaughterhouse. During the stealth sections, you are trying to avoid the Alpha Section soldiers, and if you get caught, sometimes that means instant death, other times it means you simply have to run and hide. You can crouch and you can hug walls, and in certain situations you can even incapacitate the enemies. These stealth sections require you to analyze both the environment and the enemy patterns to find the best path through the enemies without detection. The stealth is fun and it never feels forced. All the stealth sections make sense and fit within the narrative and story of the game when they occur. Outside of the main missions, racing, looters' caverns, and fighting off DOMs attacks, there are a number of other side missions and side activities to participate in. There are several Alpha Section occupied areas to sneak through and steal pearls from. There are shops in the main cities, and also a few mini games you can play for pearls and credits. The sneaking Alpha Section bits sometimes end in a tense chase scene where the camera pulls back as Jade is desperately trying to escape all the Alpha Section on her tail. There is a mini game in a bar you play for credits and pearls, and it sort of reminds me of air hockey, and once you get the hang of it, it's pretty fun. There are NPCs to talk to and sometimes gain knowledge from that lead to pearls, and there are plenty of animals to photograph to send for cataloging. The amazing thing is that none of these gameplay mechanics feel gimmicky, forced, or shoehorned in. All of these things fit within the story of the game and make sense within the narrative, and the huge variety of gameplay mechanics flow seamlessly together to create a fun and incredibly cohesive experience. Another amazing thing is that the world in Beyond Good and Evil feels truly alive. If you look around at any given time, you will see NPCs going about their business, wildlife doing their thing, and all sorts of other activities going on around you and even above you. All this combined with incredible sound design creates an immersive world that feels organic and alive. The music is also quite incredible and varied, and each track fits the location and situation it plays in, and many of them are quite catchy. The graphics still hold up relatively well, and the character and enemy models are all top-notch, especially the DOM's enemies and bosses. One other thing that I forgot to mention is that this game does not hold your hand and tell you and show you everywhere to go and what to do. Most of it you have to figure out on your own using information from NPCs, items in your inventory, your map, and the environment. I really appreciate this in a game because it respects my skills as a gamer. Also, the length of the game is just right in my opinion, as a normal run through of Beyond Good and Evil will take around 11 hours and a completionist run will take around 13 hours. The crazy thing is that the fastest speed run for Beyond Good and Evil was 1 hour and 36 minutes on the PC version, and you can watch that. I'll leave a link to it in the sources down below. Beyond Good and Evil is a game that I think every gamer should experience, and it is one of my favorite games of all time. It will always be near the top of my list, and it's a game that I could see myself easily pulling out every 5 to 10 years to play through it again and have that fresh experience again. You gotta play it. Beyond Good and Evil was released on November 11th, 2003 for the GameCube, PS2, Xbox, and PC, and it was also re-released in 2011 as an HD version on the PS3, Xbox 360, and Steam. As I stated earlier, it was published and developed by Ubisoft, and we all know who they are, of course, because they're one of the largest video game companies in the world and behind popular franchises like Assassin's Creed, Prince of Persia, Splinter Cell, Rayman, and Far Cry. But the brains behind the game is the game designer Michael Ansel, who I think is truly one of the best in the industry. Michael Ansel started his career off with the incredible Rayman franchise, as he was the lead designer for Rayman, Rayman 2, Rayman Origins, and Rayman Legends. He was also the lead designer and creative director for the video game version of Peter Jackson's King Kong, and of course he designed Beyond Good and Evil. These days he is working on Beyond Good and Evil 2 and a new game called Wild, but we have not heard anything about these games in quite some time, so hopefully they are both still in development. One of Michael Ansel's design philosophies is to allow a high level of freedom to the player, and he really achieves this very well. But what about Beyond Good and Evil 2? Well, Beyond Good and Evil has supposedly been in development since 2007, and Ubisoft officially announced the title in 2017 during E3. The last official communication I found about Beyond Good and Evil 2 was a live stream on October 31st, 2019 called the Space Monkey Report number 6, but since then it has been radio silence, leaving people to wonder if the game will ever be finished. Now, I would imagine that the virus has slowed things down quite a bit, and I also think it will be a next-gen game because of how ambitious it is. Only time will tell. Now, Beyond Good and Evil reviewed very well, as at the time of this recording on Metacritic.com, it has a critic score of 87 out of 100 out of 33 reviews, and a user score of 8.5 out of 10 with 64 user ratings. Beyond Good and Evil shows up on the best games of all time lists fairly often, and it has been nominated for and won many awards such as the Game of the Year, Original Game Character of the Year for Jade, Excellence in Game Design, Best Writer, Outstanding Achievement in Character or Story Development, several Best of Awards in gaming publications, several music and audio awards, and much, much more. Now, despite the fantastic reviews, the many awards it won, the fact that it was a game published and developed by Ubisoft, and the fact that Michael Ansel's name was defined behind it, unfortunately, Beyond Good and Evil did not sell very well at all. At the time of this recording in North America, the GameCube version sold around 60,000 copies, the Xbox version sold around 80,000 copies, and the PS2 version sold around 160,000 copies. So these sales were pretty bad, so it's actually really surprising that Ubisoft agreed to a sequel. Now, because the game didn't sell very well, there's not very many copies out there, so Beyond Good and Evil is actually a pretty uncommon game on all consoles, but especially for the GameCube. At the time of this recording on PriceCharting.com, the average loose price is around $27, the average complete price is around $53, and the average new price is around $82. At the time of this recording, I'm seeing current eBay listed prices complete at around $55 to $68, and I'm seeing recent eBay sold listings complete at around $53 to $80. I've seen the price steadily rise on this game over the last few years, so collectors out there, you should snatch it up now, because I think the price will eventually get over $100. So there you have it, folks. GameCube Gallery episode number 12 on Beyond Good and Evil. If you enjoyed this video, please let me know by hitting that like button. It really helps out the channel. It means a lot to me. Let me know in the comments down below if you've played Beyond Good and Evil and what you think about the game. Let me know if it's one of your favorite games of all time. And also, let me know in the comments down below if you have any future game suggestions for future episodes of GameCube Gallery. If you're new to the channel, be sure and hit that subscribe button so that you can join the Retro Wolf family. And I'll go ahead and let you know now, the next episode of GameCube Gallery is going to be on Dragon's Lair 3D Return to the Lair, because this game looks pretty interesting to me, so I kind of want to check it out. Never played it before, so we'll see how it goes. Alright folks, as always, stay safe out there, keep playing games and having a good time. Play Beyond Good and Evil if you have not played it. And by the way, check the end card after this video for the last episode of GameCube Gallery in case you missed it. Keep playing games and having a good time, and I will see you all in the next video. Later.